Time for pattern predictions. We put this video out every Monday and it looks over the next 2 weeks. Super important in summertime with outdoor plans, vacation plans. You can, of course, follow the 14-day forecast along right on our free app. This is the why behind the 14-day though, and what to keep an eye on in the app that may change in the current weather pattern. Let's start with the height to 500 millibars. You've heard Matt talk about this before. It's the average temperature over a layer of the atmosphere. So the oranges representing warmer air, the blues, the purples, that cooler layer of the atmosphere. What you'll notice off the bat is there's a lot of orange and warmer than average temperatures across a lot of the United States. That said, we've got a big upper level low spinning near Alaska. That big dip, that trough in the jet stream carves out a ridge on the west coast, which would promote a trough or a dip coming into the central and eastern United States. But watch what happens. We've got these disturbances that kind of ripple along it. So there is a lot of warmth across the country. We are in this pattern where we get these disturbances that come by, we get the heat out ahead of them, and then they drop the temperature a little bit. And that's especially the case, not this weekend, but next weekend when we do see some signs of some disturbances or some relatively cooler air coming in. This time of the year, of course, cooler than average with an onshore wind means highs usually in the 70s to 80s through the interior. It also means an elevated risk of thunderstorms, right? No surprise there. Matt talked about that in the monthly forecast. So next couple of days, yes, for our Tuesday, talked about that in Insights. And then for Thursday, Friday, we've got an elevated chance. The weekend, it does stay about 30 to 40% chance. Same for much of next week with some daily thunderstorm chances. So keep in mind, this does not mean it's going to rain the whole day. It's the chance of a shower or thunderstorm popping up gets a little bit lower towards the end of the period. What does that mean in terms of rainfall amounts? Well, no surprise with that ridge building into the west coast, there's not much. Central and eastern United States, with a number of thunderstorms and disturbances around the Central Plains, back through the Tennessee River Valley, back through the Mid-Atlantic and the Carolinas, there will be several inches of rain. It all depends on the placement of thunderstorms, right? So western, northern New England, I think, gets a few inches of rain for us here in New England, but it will depend on those exact placement of the thunderstorms. Now, at the surface, you can see this too, right? A lot of warmth that's carved out. By the time we get to the end of the week and the start of the weekend, we talked about this, the onshore wind takes hold. So 70s and 80s, that wind will start to relax a bit and we start to see a shift around towards the second half of the weekend and next week. And that's when we get some of the heat to build back in through the middle part of next week before cooler air, all relative, of course, comes back in towards the end of the period. So not this weekend, but next weekend. So towards the 19th, 20th, 21st. And you see it here. Keep in mind, New England wide average, right? So 86 cooling off a bit through the middle and end of this week. We start to bump it back up this weekend. And then the time frame to watch, I think, closely is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. Keep in mind, this is New England wide average, so near 90. That means some spots will likely be over that. It could be a potential heat wave here for a few days in some cities and towns for the middle part of next week, and then a dip back down. So it's kind of what we've seen this July, right? Elevated storm chances, some heat builds in, and then it relaxes a bit. Same goes for the overnight lows, right? Fairly mild with the humidity in place for Tuesday and then back down into the 60s, though with that heat building back in next week, we'll probably bump it back up to near 70 degrees. Of course, the feels like forecast, the humidity forecast, super important. And we've got the next 2 weeks in a weather map that's Fuel the Forecast membership tier. Our podcast included in the inside track, 1 Degree Outside Enthusiast, everything you need to know, golf, beach, boating, tropical outlook, updating maps, and 1 Degree Outside Champion is the local businesses that we give a special shout out to. Again, 4 different membership tiers. You wanted more information, we get a little video and write-ups right at membership.onedegreeoutside.com.